Oscar Pistorius, the South African Olympian who shot and killed his girlfriend on Valentine's Day last year, has been cleared of murder charges. But it's not over yet for the double-amputee athlete. The Times' Johannesburg bureau chief Robyn Dixon joins us from South Africa to explain. Hello, Robyn.
Hello, Anne.
So, Robyn, break this down for us. This was a partial verdict. What does it mean exactly?
Well, I think a huge burden has been lifted from Oscar Pistorius. He's been acquitted of the most serious charges of premeditated murder or murder. He still may, however, be convicted of a lesser charge, that of culpable homicide, unintentional but negligent killing, and we'll hear about that tomorrow when the court resumes.
And tell us, what exactly swayed the judge to go in the direction of acquittal in terms of premeditated murder?
Judge Masipa said there just wasn't enough evidence, there were not enough facts to prove the state case beyond reasonable doubt. And she did reject much of the evidence of neighbours who said they heard a woman screaming, or one woman who was a neighbour said she thought she heard an argument. Judge Masipa found that those people were simply mistaken, and the case was just not strong enough.
And what kind of recourse, if any, for the Steenkamp family? Do they just simply have to accept the verdict?
Well, it's interesting that there has been quite a substantial legal response from analysts online after the verdict, with many people suggesting that she may have erred in her legal reasoning. And if that's the case, it's quite possible there may be a challenge or an appeal by the state prosecutor, and that could mean that Oscar Pistorius is not out of the woods yet.
Now, Pistorius was quite tearful throughout the course of the trial. What was his demeanour and reaction today during the verdict?
We certainly have seen a lot of emotion from Oscar Pistorius during the course of the trial, and predictably, I suppose today, when that burden was lifted, he really crumpled, sobbing. His shoulders were shaking uncontrollably, and he was very emotional to hear of the verdict. Perhaps it was relief that he was feeling.
And this case, of course, has gripped the public, I understand. What was the reaction from the public today?
It certainly has gripped the public, and not only in South Africa but throughout the world. And immediately that this verdict was announced, of course, there was jubilance, as you would expect, from his supporters, but there was also a lot of dismay, particularly from the people who saw this as a case of domestic violence in a country where more than 1,000 women are killed by their intimate partners in a year. So there was quite a bit of dismay and outrage expressed by some people.
Now, is this likely to be the last that we hear of Pistorius? I mean, is his career over either way?
Well, it's interesting. I think that the fact that he has been acquitted of murder does raise a question as to whether he could resurrect a career. Quite a different question, of course, is whether the sponsors who bring money to sport would be willing to support him. We saw a different Oscar Pistorius during this trial, someone who was portrayed as being quick to rage, someone who the judge has described as being evasive and a poor witness. Perhaps not, it might not be quite so easy for him to attract those sponsors back.
Robyn, thanks so much for your insight. We'll certainly continue to follow this story. For more on this story, please visit latimes.com and follow us on Twitter @LATimes.